In today's news, Najan Christopher arrested and charged in relation to an unauthorized letter sent in May. And the BVI's first female cop, Eileen Baronville, recognized for her 30-plus years of service in the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force. And Financial Secretary addresses need for the Public Service Compensation Review, and Premier denies claim that his government continues to unjustifiably issue tender waivers. Well, viewers, these and more stories when 284 News return.
Introducing a show poised to help guide modern-day men into 21st century distinguished gentlemen. It doesn't always involve suits and bow ties, but raw, real-life lessons. I'm taking you outside in the field to share the journey of some of the BVI's best and brightest men. From East End to West End, Virgin Gorda to Jos Van Dyke, not forgetting Anegada. Our Virgin Islands gentlemen are doing the damn thing. We are the movers and shakers of this generation. The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman. Season 4 by yours truly, Ron Grant. Raising a generation of greatness. Wednesdays at 8 p.m. on 284 Media.
The wait is over. CCT FiYAH is here. Experience ultra-fast downloads, seamless streaming, and even more reliable connectivity on an all-new fire-blazing super-fast CCT Fiber network. CCT FiYAH. Bring it home and upgrade today.
Well, welcome viewers to the Tuesday, October 11th edition of 284 News. I am Kamal Haynes, bringing you the latest out of the British Virgin Islands. I want to thank you guys so much for joining us. Well, leading today's newscast, former Director of International Affairs Secretariat, Najan Christopher, has been arrested and charged with breach of trust by a public officer and false assumption of authority. But this was confirmed by the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force in a statement on Tuesday, October 11th. What the statement read, and I quote, "But police can confirm that Najan Christopher was arrested and charged yesterday for breach of trust by a public officer and false assumption of authority. She was granted bail in the sum of $5,000 to appear before the Magistrates Court on November 30th. Well, the police said that Christopher's charges stem from the diplomatic note which was sent from the Premier's office on May 3rd, following the arrest of former Premier Andrew Foy. Well, Christopher was identified as the public officer who prepared the letter from the Premier's office that was sent to a federal court in Florida, which claimed that the former Premier Foy had diplomatic immunity from being arrested. Well, the document carried the letterhead of the Office of the Premier and was stamped by the International Affairs Secretariat. It was requested by Foy's attorney, Teresa Van Vliet. Well, moving on, viewers, we're former inspector and the first woman to join the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force, Miss Eileen Baronville, was honored and recognized for her more than 30 years of service to the territory. Well, the recognition came at the RVIPF's motivational luncheon on Monday, October 10th, as part of the force's 55th anniversary celebrations this week. Well, let's take a look.
For your dedication, your service, and your lifetime commitment to the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force, Ms. Baronville, we present you with this plaque of recognition, and we hope that every time you see it, you're satisfied in yourself for what you have done for your country and for officers who came after you. And while we're doing this wonderful dedication to Ms. Baronville.
While speaking on the many accolades achieved by Baronville during her 31 years of service was Inspector Karen Vanterpool, who had the honors of unveiling the specially designed plaque which was made to honor Baronville.
Miss Eileen Baronville, affectionately known as Miss B or Super Cop, was the first local and the first female to join the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force. She was also the first female inspector. She obtained her initial training at the Regional Training Center in Sewell, Barbados in 1966. Before joining the ranks of the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force, She was encouraged to do so by her sister-in-law, who worked as a secretary in the force. She wasn't looking to become a police officer, but realized that it was an opportunity for her to earn a good salary. In 1967, on her return to her hometown, after 6 months of intense training, she was graced with a fiery baptism into police work. It was at this, as it was during the controversial Bay-Hill Agreement and the subsequent momentous Noah Lloyd-led 1968 Positive Action Movement March against segregation and Ken Bates' purchase of Tecumseh and Onondaga. It was during this period that she got some respect from her male counterparts, as they saw her as a peacemaker, as she was from the Virgin Islands.
While Inspector Vanterpool also described Baronville as an officer who was an all-rounder when it came to her duties.
This she did with pride and joy. She also held post as secretary when the secretary went on leave. She was also afforded the opportunity to act in the rank of corporal, which didn't sit well with many of the males at that time. It took the then chief of police to intervene, who made sure that she was given her stripes and her promotion to corporal. She didn't get another promotion until some 10 years later, which was to the rank of sergeant. She was required to sit an exam, after being in the service for 25 years, which she did and successfully passed. Ms. Baronville slept on floors with prisoners with whom she had compassion for, especially women. Most of her dealings were with juveniles, which were her baby. She has played the role in many departments and has dealt mainly with sexual offenses, offenses against women, children, and young persons. She was upright, very firm, professional, and a person that you could talk to, and was a very strong advocate for honesty and integrity.
While Commissioner of Police Mark Collins thanked Baronville for her service, stating that he was privileged to have her as part of the RVIPF celebrations.
So let me start by offering a very personal welcome to Miss Baronville. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your service. You were the first female officer of the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force, and we thank you for your service, and we are delighted and privileged to have you here today to celebrate with us.
Meanwhile, Premier Dr. the Honorable Natalia Wheatley also joined in the congratulatory remarks. He said Baronville also had an impact on his life from way back in his school days.
Let me take this opportunity as well and to congratulate Eileen Baronville. Yes, very close friend of the family, and certainly I always admired her as a member of the police service who was very effective in doing her job and had to always diffuse a lot of situations even from when I was a little boy in school. And I want to say I appreciate you. And I want to say as well that I celebrate all the women in the police service, because of course I believe here in the Virgin Islands, even though we have much further to go, that we've done well as it pertains to ensuring that women have access to leadership positions.
Well, up next, viewers, Financial Secretary addresses need for public service compensation review, and Premier denies claim that his government continues to unjustifiably issue tender waivers. Well, these and more stories after a word from our sponsors.
Brilliant Hands and Minds tutoring services, one-on-one tutorials in math and English, intense homework assistance, academic enrichment, school projects, effective communication and public speaking development, sign language for adults and children on Saturdays only. Registered with the Virgin Islands High School Certificate Program, Brilliant Hands and Minds can help you too. Offering intense curriculum-based training to help you or your loved ones get their high school diploma. It's time to make your family's education a #1 priority. Hurry, space is limited. Brilliant Hands and Minds Learning Center. We are the trained education professionals.
There's a reason you get up on a morning. A reason you pick yourself up, start the day. Maybe it's sheer grit. Maybe it's your ethics. Maybe it's because you know people like you are waiting for people just like you. We all have our reasons, and for Republic Bank, that reason is you. Every little thing, every big thing. It's all about making a difference in your life. Because after 182 years, if it's one thing we're sure about, is that the difference is you. We're here to help.
Republic Bank, we're the one for you.
Well, welcome back, viewers. Well, at the recently held launch of the Public Service Compensation Review, Financial Secretary for the Government of the Virgin Islands in the Ministry of Finance, Mr. Jeremiah Fred, shared the importance of the Public Service Compensation Review. Well, the launch was held to commemorate the contract awarded to Trinidad-based consultancy firm PricewaterhouseCoopers Advisory Services Limited.
I commend the Governor, Premier, and Minister of Finance, and the Deputy Governor for staying the course on the transformation of the public service. The transformation process, which is geared towards improving good governance, productivity, and bringing greater efficiency in the delivery of service to our internal and external customers, is welcome. You would agree with me that having an efficient public service is an essential factor for continuous economic growth. Yesterday, as I reflected on the public service and how it has transformed since the last review, which was some 20 years ago in 2002, what was some of the processes that was used then? And what was the salary scale? During this period, our laws have been amended. New ones were introduced, such as the recent Public Procurement Act and regulations.
Well, speaking on the evolution of technology, Mr. Fred spoke about how this has affected the process of compensation review.
Technology also has changed, and at an accelerated pace due to the hurricane and the pandemic. The evolution of these laws, processes, and technology has drastically changed our job description and classification. Notwithstanding payment of increments, still have some to go, we are mindful of the competitive labor market where the private sector and some SOE, they look in its recruitment efforts to draw or qualify and trained officers. This exercise, while delayed, is necessary economically and is in the best interest of the public service. I am fully aware that it may result in a higher wage bill, which may impact our fiscal cushion. Therefore, it is incumbent of all of us, each one of you, to support the transformation process and identify and support the implementation of new revenue initiatives that can offset the potential costs.
And Mr. Fred also took the time to congratulate Trinidadian company PricewaterhouseCoopers on successfully being awarded a contract for the compensation review of the public service, and also encouraged public officers to be a part of the process.
I congratulate PricewaterhouseCoopers on their successful tender submission that occurred through a fair and transparent open tender process. I look forward to reviewing their report on its conclusion and make sure that we can fund that and make the necessary recommendation to the Ministry of Finance and other policymakers. To my fellow public officers, senior, middle, junior, all of us. Your participation is important to the success of this review and for your classification and adequate level of compensation. Someone texts me and asks me, do I have a calculator? Yes, I do. And I hope that the calculation does not malfunction at the end of the review process. However, I think that is a needed and timely exercise. So I said to all of us, start your process now if you have not done so, and effectively communicate your duties, responsibilities, and your role in the organization. Your placement partly depends on you.
Well, moving on, viewers, where Premier Dr. the Honorable Natalia Wheatley has dismissed the recent claims made by the governor in his quarterly review report, which claims that the National Unity Government continues to unjustifiably issue tender waivers for some government contracts. Well, Premier Wheatley responded to the claims during last Friday's press conference as he addressed a number of concerns that he had within the report. Well, His Excellency Governor John Rankin had stated within his quarterly review report that, I quote, proposals for tender waivers are still being presented for consideration by Cabinet, often with insufficient and poorly presented justification. He continued, some of these proposals date from contractual commitments made by the previous administration. But even in these cases, the government of National Unity has in many cases failed to take action to launch tender processes before the expiry of the current contract and has proposed waivers for contract extensions without evidence of value for money. I have referred several of these for further audit investigation, end quote. Of yours responding to the governor's comments, Premier Wheatley said that the claims made in the quarterly review report regarding tender waivers were inaccurate, adding that his government utilized 3 main procurement options when issuing government contracts. Take a listen.
In terms of tender waivers, it is important to understand that this term does not appear in our local laws. The Public Finance Management Act mandates that all contracts $100,000 and above must be tendered unless Cabinet directs otherwise. Therefore, Cabinet had unlimited discretion in not doing open tendering, which we recognized way before the COI had to change. Way before the COI, we were in the process of developing a stand-alone procurement act to modernize our legislative framework on procurement.
Well, Premier Wheatley also sought to explain the 3 procurement options, which included open tendering, restricted tendering, and single-source procurement.
We now have in place the Public Procurement Act, which gives clear guidelines on how procurement is to be done and has removed the open discretion which previously existed. Procurement can be done through either open tendering, restricted tendering, or single-source procurement for the most part. The circumstances in which each can be done is clearly defined in the law and the regulations, and is supposed to improve competitive bidding, value for money, and transparency. Single-source procurement is not the equivalent of a quote-unquote tender waiver. It clearly defines the instances, the legislation clearly defines the instances where it is necessary to go through an open tender. For example, the legislation clearly defines the instances where it is not necessary to go through an open tender. For example, contracts for emergencies or contracts for national security matters do not have to go through open tendering.
Well, the Premier also revealed that various ministries are in a transitional phase, moving away from the previous practice of signing rolling contracts for various services and ensuring that his government is fully engaged in open tendering for such goods and services.
These contractual arrangements were made before the new legislation was passed. The Ministry of Finance is providing the required training to accounting and financial planning officers across government to expedite this process. In the meantime, however, we cannot simply stop procuring services which are needed, such as transporting our students, for instance. A transition period is necessary to integrate previously signed rolling contracts into the new system now in place under the Procurement Act.
Well, viewers, up next, Jovan Cline to be installed as the new senior pastor of the New Life Baptist Church in January 2023. Premier's office debunks governor's rumored move to Cutlass Tower, and CCT advises customers of a maintenance interruption to their FiYAH service at midnight tonight. While we get to those stories when 284 News return.
You value traditions. Today, you value music. You value education. Family. I love you. Service.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Love. Life. At Popular, we're committed to you and everything our community values. For the things you value the most, count on us. Popular.
So you're saying I can ask this cat any question?
The cat is connected to the computer. You just type in the question, it will read his mind. There the answer comes.
You're the man! I've been looking for this for weeks.
Well, welcome back, viewers. Well, in collective devotion and servitude, the boards of trustees, senior pastors, Bishop Najan Cline, the pastors, and the members of the New Life Baptist Church announced the appointment of Jovan Cline to the position of senior pastor. Well, the appointment will be effective January 2023. Whether the decision comes as current senior pastor Bishop John Ivan Cline is set to transition from his role at the church's senior pastor, a position he has held since 1993. Where church members and officials were first informed of the senior pastor's prayerful decision of transition in December of 2021. Subsequently, following months of consultation with the board and the senior leadership team, Pastor Jovan Cline was identified as his replacement. Pastor Jovan Cline, 28, and a son of the outgoing senior pastor, was ordained as a pastor on Sunday 30th of January 2022. He currently serves as the church's director of music. While speaking on the move, Bishop Cline said, and I quote, "It's been my humbling honor to have been elected by God and to have found favor with the members of this church and to have been able to serve in the way and for so long. With much prayer and supplication, I have decided to pass the mantle to another generation, and I am humbled that God has positioned Jovan, who I am blessed to call my son, to continue the work of the Lord." End quote. But Pastor Jovan Cline will be elevated and appointed to the office of senior pastor after he is sworn into office at a sacred installation service on Sunday 29th of January 2023 at 4 p.m. in the sanctuary of the New Life Baptist Church. But the service will feature special ministerial touches and music from family and friends selected by Pastor Jovan Cline himself. When speaking following the news, Pastor Jovan Cline said, and I quote, "It's a great honor to be called to such an impactful position. My father has been a genuine heart and leader for the past 30 years, and I look forward to the growth of the church and our ministries as we go forward with God's will. I am committed to the ministry that God has called me to. With each day, I intend to humbly and wholeheartedly work along with my fellow ministers to reach and relate to the congregation inside and outside the walls of the church. Well, God has been faithful to me, and with the help of my wife, Rosie, I intend to remain faithful to him." End quote. Now moving on to our next story, viewers, where the government of national unity has debunked rumors that His Excellency Governor John Rankin is making preparations to move his office into the space on the first floor of the Cutlass Tower, the same building where the Premier's office is presently housed. Well, as explained by Permanent Secretary in the Premier's office, Carolyn Stout-Igwe, the intention for this lower floor is to facilitate an expansion of the space occupied by the Premier's office.
A tender was issued for that a couple months ago. Ministry of Finance has gone through the evaluation process. That space is being outfitted for the Premier's office, in particular to house the Constitutional Review Commission's office with a conference room, as well as the Premier's office for the COI implementation unit. That's where it should be housed. We are currently just located at the Ministry of Finance temporarily, as well as some other offices within the Premier's office.
While Stout Igwege explained that the expansion was necessary due to the space constraints experienced on the second floor, which the Premier office occupies.
Right now where the Premier's office is, the floor is very cramped. So we have our policy unit and we have some other members of staff that should be shifting downstairs. So that is for the Premier's office and not the Governor's office.
Moving on to our final story, viewers, where Caribbean Cellular Telephone Limited, also referred to as CCT, is advising all customers of a partial interruption to service delivery from midnight tonight. But this, according to CCT, is for the purpose of maintaining their fiber to the house network and will affect all connected areas across the territory. But the maintenance is scheduled to occur from midnight until 2 a.m., during which time access to the FiYAH service will be interrupted. But the telecoms company has advised customers experiencing any issues with the service after the 2-hour maintenance window to please reboot your modem to help remedy the problem. But they say if the issue still exists, to please call their call center for further assistance at 444-4444. That is 444-4444. Well, that's it for today's news roundup. Be sure to follow us for news updates at 284media.com and Facebook at 284media and 284BVI on Instagram and Twitter. I'm Kamal Haynes and I'll see you again tomorrow. Have a safe and enjoyable evening. Bye-bye.
Brilliant Hands and Minds tutoring services, one-on-one tutorials in math and English, intense homework assistance, academic enrichment, school projects, effective communication and public speaking development, sign language for adults and children on Saturdays only. Registered with the Virgin Islands High School Certificate Program, Brilliant Hands and Minds can help you too. Offering intense curriculum-based training to help you or your loved ones get their high school diploma. It's time to make your family's education a #1 priority. Hurry, space is limited. Brilliant Hands and Minds Learning Center. We are the trained education professionals.
Hello?
Wait, you're the launch and you say you were sick? What happened to over the rehearsal?
No, babe. I'm actually watching the news right now. Take a listen.
Topping our newscast today, UFOs seen around Tortola Pier Park.
And District 3 residents outraged over no water supply. They simply cannot bathe. These and more stories when 284 News returns. Alright, babe, just get some rest, take 2 Advil, and I'll see you later. Bye.
Okay, honey. I see you later. I love you.
It's clear to see that Coconut Lounge is a place to be, the coolest cocktail lounge in the British Virgin Islands. A lounge like no other, with welcoming, professional service, and a breathtaking ambiance. Not forgetting a diverse selection of wines, beers, and signature cocktails. Cozy, comfortable, contemporary. Coconut Lounge at Tortola Pier Park. Visit us today.
Next customer line, please. Wait, hold on a second.
Yes, Sonny boy, come, yes, Sonny.
Good morning.
Good morning, Sonny boy. Hold on there. You must have cut front of people.
It's okay, I'll take care of it.
What? No man to take care of me.
How may I assist you?
Yes.
You want top of power?
You want top of power?
Join the prepaid party with CCT and enjoy more affordable data plans, more top-up promotions, more savings with hero bundles, and more value for your money each and every Tuesday with Top Up Turn Up Tuesday. Visit a CCT store today or anywhere CCT Top Up is sold and top up your phone.
5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. You want top of power?